Hey everyone! Before we dive into today's episode, I want to flag that at the end of the recording, Becca says that we're going to be taking a hiatus due to her needing to, get married. Well, she is now married. So everyone say congratulations to Becca. But now she's on her honeymoon, and her favorite way to unwind, aside from jumping in a lake, obviously, is reading. So instead of taking a hiatus after this episode, we're actually going to do a little summer book club. And the book that we're going to be covering in our next episode is Eligible by Curtis Sittenfeld. So if you haven't read it, grab a copy, and we can't wait to chat about it. And now, please enjoy this week's episode covering the final part of the 2022 adaptation of Persuasion with our guest, Sequoia Simone. Okay, we don't trust a 10, ladies. When Anne arrives at the house in Bath, Elizabeth says she's happy to see Anne because she needs Elliot to see her next to Anne to make her look good.
Pretty funny.
Here's the thing, though, like, it doesn't work because it's Dakota Johnson.
Right.
Sure.
Now, this Elizabeth is very pretty, but Dakota Johnson is not ugly. I do like everything this Elizabeth says, though. She's like, poor thing has been nursing a crush on me for 10 years. He must have thought I was out of his league. And Anne's like, I can't imagine any other reason he didn't come to you. And Elizabeth says she can never tell if Anne is insulting her, and she doesn't care.
You know what I love about this Anne is that, like, I get why her family hates her.
Yeah! Yes! Like, she does not give them anything to go on. Like,
Yeah, she's a huge asshole to them. And I mean,
But they're mean. They're all mean. She's more like her family in this version than she is in the book. She's not anything like her family.
yeah.
And in this she's just like a different, she's her family in a different font.
Yeah, I will say that, like, the conversation Wentworth and Louisa have by the water, where Wentworth is like, Anna's just as proud as the rest of them. Next time you're at a function and you see her standing in the corner, just know that she's silently judging everybody there. I completely believed him.
yeah,
Yeah.
it felt organic to this Anne. And
Yeah.
it doesn't feel organic to say that she is different than her family because she seems like them.
Yeah.
Which is why, like, I don't care that Elizabeth is being so mean to her
Exactly.
It's
because
hilarious.
they're both so mean. Whatever, be mean to each other. It's funny.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Sir Walter then comes in and says that Elliot is coming. And Anne is like, I'm surprised you're entertaining this since he insulted you so much. And Sir Walter's like, well, he denied making any insults. And Anne's like, he made them to your face. And he's like, well, he was very strong in his denial.
This Walter is great.
He's
I
great.
love him. I will note Anne's dress in this. She's wearing like a green frock coat thing over her dress, but her dress looks like one of those crinkle shirts from Old Navy. Do you know the ones I'm talking about?
Yeah.
We haven't gone back to the rouging situation in a minute, but thank you for like making it like it barreled right back into my brain when you said it. I maintain that in every scene of this fucking movie, someone has like rouging on their clothes, like it's that fabric crinkle. It can be flattering in like moderation, but it's also used on like cheap, stretchy material.
Right.
And so everything they wear looks really cheap and really modern
Yeah.
because it's all rouged. And
Yeah.
I don't understand what the idea was behind the rouging. Like, who was like, this is the motif? Because it's not like when it comes to Jane Austen stuff, it's not like you have to spend a ton of money to get perfect costumes. You can get pretty decent costumes for a Jane Austen adaptation cheap, hence all the BBC stuff that we watch. Like, they're reusing a lot of the same dresses, but they look nice. Like,
I cannot tell you how much I love that you have such a huge beef with the rouging.
I
of the
want a
dresses.
carousel of screenshots of the rouging outfits. Like, I don't know why it bothers me so much. It feels so offbeat with the rest of the movie, which aesthetically is mostly gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like, they've cast beautiful people. The cinematography is great. A lot of the set pieces are wonderful, but the costuming in particular really suffers. It just feels like they didn't trust like the audience. Like, I am not against modernizing the Jane Austen wardrobe. Bridgerton, in particular, is a show that does this really, really nicely. They like
Yeah.
take elements of modern style very specifically and intentionally and imbue it into period piece wear in a way that looks stunning. And there's like an emphasis on stunning costume wear in Bridgerton. That looks great. You can also do what the 2007 adaptation did here, which clearly didn't have a huge budget. It's an hour and a half BBC movie and just pick up some old period dresses. Some of them looked great, some of them didn't look so great, but for the most part, it was inoffensive to me. It's everything they do in this movie, which is like unsure of exactly what
Half
they want the
in, half
costumes
out.
to look like. So they
Mhm.
just do this like halfway thing that just doesn't work for me.
I will say that despite having just made fun of one of her dresses, I actually really like the costumes. They make everyone look really sexy. And there are some really pretty dresses, but just in particular, it's this picture of Anne. She just had a lot of little, like, slutty little blazers. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And I don't hate that. And like I think that the overall cohesion of the costumes is like maybe this is in direct opposition to what you were just saying, but like it's almost like a simplistic, like everyone has a color for each scene. Basically, everything is linen except for a couple dresses that I really liked that are linen covered in lace with like a lace sheen on top that Elizabeth and Mrs. Clay wear.
I have a feeling Becca doesn't like that.
Becca just sighed really loudly.
I like a lot aesthetically about this film. That's like genuinely not my issue with this film, but the costuming did not hit for me.
That's totally fair, and I completely see why you feel the way that you do about them, and I'm not saying that I think that the costumes are, like, iconic or anything. I'm
Mhm.
just saying that I would probably wear these outfits,
Yes.
because I like them for myself, except I don't like Anne's little velvet choker.
Yeah, it's very 2000s, like Lizzie McGuire.
Yeah,
That actually felt very Bridgerton, Emma 2020 to me.
it does.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just don't like it for myself. Like, I wouldn't wear it personally.
got
got it.
it.
Anyway, that was a nice little detour. To get back to the world of this collection of images, Mr. Elliot arrives and he flirts with Anne in front of Elizabeth. And she goes, "I'm your cousin." Anne.
Yeah.
Was the pause after "I'm your cousin"?
Yeah.
Iconic. And he's like, I actually quoted this down in my vast collection of potential funniest quotes, but he says, "Cousin? Interesting. A step up from passerby, but still a bit short of most beloved." Right in front of Elizabeth, who he's supposedly been courting all this time.
Right.
And Anna's like, "Don't worry, he's just practicing on me," and then walks away. At cocktail hour that night, Anne and Elliot are talking some more, and he openly admits that he wants to prevent his uncle from having a son by Mrs. Clay that will rob him of his title.
Again, we're not hiding the ball on any of this, but
No.
someone's got to say it because, and this might be the time to bring it up. There ain't no Mrs. Smith in this adaptation.
Oh, very
Yeah.
much not.
Very much not.
Which sucks for a lot of reasons. This is another thing about Persuasion adaptations. They're all afraid of Mrs. Smith, and I don't know why. It's an interesting part of the book. I want to see someone like really like unapologetically do the Mrs. Smith plotline. They decided instead to just not hear and have him be really upfront with his maybe ill intentions and to make them not that bad.
Yeah, they are softening him so much. He's not an outright villain.
He's not an outright villain. I do think that the fact that she's like, "Oh, are you concerned for my father's reputation?" And he's like, "No, I want my title." Makes him, I mean, again, he's upfront about it, but it does make him not necessarily a villain, but an asshole. Enough of an asshole that we don't root for him and Anne to get together.
But that I disagree though because I think Anne's an asshole, and in this adaptation, so like I want two assholes to get together. That's a much more interesting story to me than watching two people be like, "We wish the nexus we were friends." Like,
It
ugh.
is a much more interesting
It
story,
is.
but we know that we're watching Persuasion, so we know
Are
that
we?
They have way better chemistry too.
they do.
They do.
Yeah, and here, this is a great one to send to our listeners. We should do a poll on our Instagram when this episode drops. Is Henry Golding's Mr. Elliot a villain or not?
Yes. As in, yes, we should poll the listeners.
Yes.
But I think that I understand why they did what they did for a modern audience, removing Mrs. Smith from the equation entirely, because sometimes if you don't go full on with his villainy, she just muddies the waters. Like in the other adaptations, I feel like her story got butchered and it made it more confusing for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're not going to do it all the way, just don't do it at all.
Yeah.
in my opinion.
That's fair.
They
Yeah.
kind of don't here though, is the thing. They kind of just tell a different story. This story bothered me a little bit less than all the other stories. It's not Persuasion, but at least it has like a beginning, middle, and an end.
But yeah, and it's part of part of what Mr. Elliot originally was doing in Persuasion was he came to Bath for the sole purpose of keeping an eye on things with Mrs. Clay
Yeah.
because he doesn't want Sir Walter having a baby. So like that is true. And
Yeah.
he does ultimately by any means keep her from doing that.
Ultimately, he does.
And that's true in the book too. His means are just like not as honest because he takes her away and makes her his mistress. But I think that they keep the heart of at least that part of the storyline.
Absolutely.
Then the next day, Sir Walter is banging aggressively on an egg, and Anne is hungover, and she's like, "God, why is he banging on this egg?" And then he's reading the newspaper and he screams, and everyone goes, "Ah!" And he goes, "Joy, pardon me, I'm experiencing joy."
Yes.
Because the Dalrymples are in town, and Anna's like, "Those guys are barely our cousins. Like, they don't know who we are." And he's like, "Well, with a couple visual aids in 45 minutes, I'm sure we can explain the connection." And then he tells everyone they're about to touch greatness, and we cut to the absolute most boring two people ever.
And I want to be clear, this is my favorite scene in the movie.
Agree.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly.
The first time I watched it, I was like, "What the fuck is happening?" And then the second 2 times that I watched it, I was like, "This is brilliant."
I wouldn't call
Beautiful.
it brilliant. I would call it unhinged. And it goes round the end of being so bad it's good.
Exactly.
And they're like it's hard to explain. And I know some of our listeners know this scene because it's quite infamous, but this is known as the octopus scene. But this is the moment in the movie I enjoyed by far the most.
By a long shot.
Yeah. So they're all just sitting there silently, and it's so awkward that Anne decides that she should tell a story about a dream that she's had before where an octopus is sucking on her face, and she tries to pull the octopus off her face. But then she realizes that her arms are tentacles and that she, in fact, is the octopus and she is sucking her own face.
It's so funny. Why is it so funny?
Well, first of all, we talked about this last episode. This is the most Fleabag moment of the entire movie because it's almost an exact cop of the Quaker meeting house scene in Fleabag, except instead of a line about feminism and boobs, it is a line about an octopus dream, but it's exactly the same tension break. And it clearly endears Mr. Elliot and appalls everybody else except Lady Dalrymple, who kind of vibes with it. But it's also the most random thing anyone has ever said, ever. Like, ever.
And I really just think Dakota Johnson is nailing the delivery on this.
Yes.
She showed up to work that day and she was like, "This is it.
This is it. This is my moment," she said.
Maybe
The
like this is
octopus
the
moment.
scene they showed her when they were pitching it, and they were like, "This is what it's all about right here." And
Yeah.
she's like, "I'm perfect for that."
I'm perfect for it. And she does, it's so funny. But I also think there might be an element of like, this is the point in the film where I feel if you are a Austen fan and you're trying to watch Persuasion and it's not Persuasion and it's this movie, this is maybe where you're the most exhausted. Like you're exhausted. You're like, "Oh my God, this movie is still happening. I'm still watching this movie." And then this happens. I feel like it's so funny because you're already in like a state of delirium from having to have watched the last however many minutes of this film.
Yeah, no question. And that's kind of the thing is like they're like in most moments of this film, it's like someone drunk told them the story of Persuasion and they are doing that. And then this moment they just release. And we don't have to worry about it being Persuasion anymore. It's just this.
It's just Dakota Johnson doing this octopus monologue.
Which, like, honestly, this is the kind of art that I love to consume.
Yeah.
Is like stuff where it's just random and it kind of means something, but maybe by accident. Like, it's really funny. I could see this happening in any other movie and being very well received, and, like, maybe it's well received here, but I feel like for the most part, people are like, "Why the octopus?" Which, like, is also a funny reaction. Like,
It's also a completely valid question.
Super
Well, yeah.
valid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Super valid.
But, like, in any other movie, I'd be like, "That was the best thing I've ever seen." So, like, I loved it.
Which is why I enjoy this scene so much when it's in Fleabag.
Yeah, sure.
Great in that story.
Yeah, and it makes you really understand, like you said, we're releasing ourselves from the expectation that this needs to be like anything like we were expecting.
We're free.
Yeah, we're
We're
free.
finally
We're
free.
free. All it took was an octopus eating her face. That
Yeah.
was also her.
Yeah, so Elliot responds to this by saying, "Sometimes our greatest adversaries are shadow versions of ourselves. Next time, let him wrap his tentacles around you and let yourself be taken." In front of her family, mind you, like her dad's there. And she says, "In your dreams, Mr. Elliot." And then Lady Dalrymple goes, "And also in mine. It was on account of eating cheese too close to bedtime."
Oh,
I don't know
boy.
why they think that Lady Dalrymple is boring. She fucking rocks.
She's
in
great.
this
Her
movie.
daughter is just staring at her hands this whole time. like examining them like this.
I feel like David Lynch wrote this scene.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I will say, I had a really hard time summarizing this film, just to say one more nice thing about it, because so many of the lines are fucking funny. Like, I just wrote them all down and have been repeating it word for word.
Yeah.
So I'll hand it to them on that front as well. Now, whether Persuasion is a comedy, another question.
It is, but it's not this comedy.
No. Afterwards, Mr. Elliot says that Mrs. Clay, that awful woman, cannot marry her father, and he goes to like go take her off of his arm, and Anne says, "You'd rather stop Mrs. Clay from taking my father's arm than talk with me?" And he says, "My dear octopus, it's not even close." But then he proceeds to go and
He
hit
does
Mrs.
it,
Clay.
does it anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Later, Anne and Lady Russell are talking about Mr. Elliot and how he could catch a potato if it suits him, which is another way of saying he's so charming.
It's another way of saying he's a 10.
He is Henry Golding.
Who could catch a potato?
He could catch this potato.
And then they share a very charged glance. We've already talked about the fact that they have chemistry. Lady Russell says that she thinks they would make a great match, and she thinks that Anne has taken an interest in him. And Anne says she wants Lady Russell to, for once, let her make her own decisions and trust her own heart. She says she tried the alternative once and will never forgive herself. And Lady Russell's like, "You mean you'll never forgive me?" And then she starts to talk about under the circumstances with Wentworth and Louisa, and Anne's like, "What?" And finds out that everyone is talking about Louisa and her captain.
Big slip there.
Little misdirect.
Yeah. The thing is, it's like it's a misdirect that's working on multiple people.
It's a misdirect that, yeah, it's working on everyone in Bath.
It's also a misdirect in like that is taken directly from 2007 as well. Like they really like the misdirect, the Mrs. Edward Ferrars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Misdirect versus Mrs. Robert Ferrars
Yeah.
indirect.
Mhm.
Misdirect, like I'm not mad about it, but then we do get the scene of her crying in the bathtub.
Yeah, which I actually kind of love that scene of her crying in the bathtub, because she's like talking about how she always thought that when this day came, she would handle it really well. Like when he moved on.
Sure. And what evidence does she have
I was gonna say, like, it's the least convincing line because for her to handle it gracefully, we would have had to see her handle a single thing
any one
gracefully
thing gracefully
in this film, and
That's
she does
really
not.
funny. Okay, so out of context, I really love this scene. Like if it was someone else doing it.
Again, parts of this movie really work if you just watch the scene.
Exactly.
It's just that when you string them together, they don't really make a story.
A series of scenes.
It's a series of
bits.
moments. Yeah. Okay, cake shop scene. She's eating a sample and Wentworth walks in.
Cakes look great.
Cakes look great.
Cakes look awesome.
It made me so hungry watching
We love
this
some
scene.
good set dressing.
Yep. Do.
Is this where she's wearing that beret? Oh, no, it's the top hat. This is the top hat.
This is the top
This is the top hat.
This is the top hat.
The beret happened. We forgot to mention it.
It was
I
very.
forgot about the beret.
And the funny thing is, it was not even 2022 or 2021 then this movie came out. That was like straight up circa 2013.
Yes.
That beret. But what's more upsetting is the top hat. Who put her in a top hat? Who did this?
Well, I have it pulled up if you want to know who the costume designer was.
Oh no!
I don't want to shit too directly on this costume designer if it's someone who's done excellent work elsewhere. Whatever was happening here was wrong.
Marian Agertoft. When I Google her, it says she's known for Sexy Beast 2000, Persuasion 2022, and The City and the City 2018.
I have not seen anything except Persuasion. I hope no one else is wearing rouging in those films.
Or a top hat. Where a top
And
hat shouldn't be.
Podark.
Poldark?
Poldark.
Oh, with Aidan Turner.
And Death Comes to Pemberley.
Uh-huh. Lots of ruching in that one, if I remember correctly.
Is that actually true?
I think so.
Oh my god! Listeners, please send me more pictures of this rouging. I need to know. I need to see. I need to torture myself with it. I thought when this day would come, I would handle it more gracefully, but clearly I haven't.
Wait, unrelated because I just said Podark, and I need to know if you guys also thought that it was Boathouse Farms, like the drinks.
It's
The-
not?
You know, the smoothies
Yeah, that's not. Wait.
and the salad dressings?
Yeah.
It's not Boathouse Farms.
What is it?
Bolthouse Farms.
Bolt House?
BOLT House Farms. And I Googled Boathouse Farms is not a thing. It's
I
Bolthouse.
truly also thought it was Boat
It's like a
House
Mandela
Farms.
effect thing.
I have no idea what it is you're talking about.
You know those
It's like
smoothies?
super green, super.
There are a lot of super green smoothies in this world. I do not know what
I
you're
feel like
talking
they were
about.
OG though.
So anyway, they're in the cake shop. And in the book, I wanted to just draw a parallel here. So in the book, she sees him coming out the window and is able to compose herself. Obviously, they're not friends in the book, so that she needs time to compose herself. Anyway, in this, he sneaks up on her.
Oh, right. This
Yeah.
was the moment where I was like, and she'll have cake in her mouth.
And she'll have cake in her mouth. And she did.
Of course she did. Of
Yeah.
course she did. Because this Anne Elliot, she's a little bit of a mess.
Yeah. A little?
A little bit.
a
No,
lot of-
that's the plot, is that she's
Yeah.
a little bit of a mess.
Right.
So
yeah.
she's gonna do every cliched messy thing in the book.
Yeah. So she tells Wentworth that she's just waiting for her friend and then proceeds to immediately tell him how charming and wonderful he is and how he makes her laugh. And Wentworth's like, oh, I'm glad that you're happy and blah, 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 blah. And he starts to bring up the engagement. And then, of course, Elliot walks in, so he gets cut off.
I too would be intimidated if I were competing with Henry Golding.
Oh, of course.
For
Yes.
sure.
Yeah. Now, Elliot apologizes for his behavior in Lyme. And I have to keep quoting it. He says, it was on account of being struck by this dazzling creature. And she says, don't call me creature. And he says, what should I call you? And she goes, woman, woman. And he goes, what's wrong with creature? We'll talk about it later.
I'm so distracted by the top hat while she's talking.
I could not. This felt improvised, like in the best way when she's just like, we'll talk about it later. I was like, that's Dakota Johnson.
And what
Yeah.
I do mean is like I root for Elliot and Anne.
I
in
do.
this.
Same a little bit in
I
this
really
scene.
do.
In,
In
like,
many scenes.
They have
most
good
of the
banter.
She and Wentworth have like negative chemistry. It's like really upsetting.
Yeah, but he does have the puppy dog eyes down.
Yeah.
Anyway, then Elliot invites Wentworth to the concert, and Wentworth says that he's glad to see her happy, and she says, I hope you're happy too. But none of this really works because they already agreed to be friends. So the fact that he like comes running to be like, wait, I'm free now. It's like, but you made her believe that she should be moving on.
Right.
So concert time. Wentworth reveals that he has been offered a position on a ship and he has until Saturday to make up his mind. When Elliot interrupts to say he needs his Anne to translate the program from Italian.
Cappuccino.
Prosciutto, molto bene,
Buffalo.
mozzarella di bufala.
And Elliot then turns to Wentworth after she walks away and he says, I hope you can make it to the wedding and so values your friendship.
Yeah, that's a moment.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I kind of am into it because I'm not big on Wentworth in this adaptation, so I'm kind of
Sure.
vibing with Elliot being an asshole.
He is an asshole. They go in and the singer sings.
This is a moment I think I lost my soul.
The tear that doesn't move
We
is
had like
that
a whole conversation when we were watching this film together about whether or not Anne was crying in the scene because Dakota Johnson's face is deadpan, but there's just like glistens,
what
and
tear?
we determined that she does in fact have two tears streaming down her face while
One on each cheek, in the same spot on each cheek.
and it's so obvious that someone walked in and put little droplets of water on her cheeks because I've never seen anyone who is more obviously not crying in my life.
But the 2 droplets, it's like they got teardrops that are just a little too, like, goopy
Viscous?
viscous. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the word. They're too viscous, and they're just sitting on her cheeks.
They're moving so slowly.
Like, the singer is singing slowly, and we zoom out, we look at the singer, we look back to Anne, and the drops are still there.
I would feel so bad if Dakota Johnson went like full method on this movie and trained for like months and like actually was crying in this scene. But everything about her performance says I am phoning this in
and why is she crying?
because Wentworth and the
But
music.
she
I
already cried in the
I Yeah, wait, they didn't have any kind of confrontation that would
No, they
make
were just
her
like talking, and then she was now she's listening to opera, and
I
she's
would
like, "It's beautiful."
Some people do cry at opera. There we've not heard that Anne would she's not in a state where we would think that she was moved, nor does anything on her face
Yeah.
betray that she might be moved
This
in
is
the
the
scene.
first song. So, like, it just
Just
started.
yeah. The opera singer starts singing, and she's automatically got 2 glistening tears.
Like, honestly, like, it made me think spoilers for The Last of Us, so if you don't wanna hear Last of Us spoilers, like, hit fast forward twice. Made me think of that scene where Bella Ramsey is in Joel's closet, like, as Ellie, and the
Mhm.
tears start streaming down Ellie's face while she's, like, sniffing his jacket, and, like, how deeply moving and organic that moment was, and then I compared it in my brain to this moment.
First of all, how dare you bring that up?
Yeah, what Becca?
Second of all, yeah.
Yeah,
There's
that's
just nothing happening in this scene.
exactly.
Yeah, and another thing they stole from the 2007 when there are other options for how to do it,
And this was a bad moment in the 2007.
yeah, is running out in the middle of the concert.
Right.
So Wentworth runs out,
And
she runs out.
it makes more sense in this than it does in 2007, because in 2007, I think, she's running out, you're like, "Oh, that's unlike her to rock the boat that way," but it also betrays, like, how much she's feeling in that moment, that she would stand up
Yeah.
when you weren't supposed to in this place and run after him. I kinda like it, I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
It makes even more sense in here because this Anne Elliot doesn't really care about what other people are doing or thinking or feeling or what society wants her to do at any given point. She just says whatever she wants to and does whatever she wants
And
to.
you know what we haven't flagged about her yet?
What?
She's not like other girls.
She's not like other
She,
girls.
she is not like other girls.
Except in this movie, she actually kind of is.
Yeah. Like, she's not relatable.
She's
I mean, I too like to put two droplets of water on my cheeks when I listen to opera.
Yeah, so that we look cultured.
Mhm.
So she chases him out, and she's like, "I was hoping we could continue our conversation," and he's like, "No, it's okay. I'm going to see. I've made up my mind," which does make a little bit of sense here. Like, why he would be like, "I'm leaving now," is because he was just told by Elliot that Anne's getting married, and he's like, "I don't want to intrude. I'm gonna remove myself from the equation." Kind of respect the move from him there. He leaves, and Elliot is about to say something to Anne, and she says, "Just let me speak." And he says, "But you interrupted me. Let me say what I want to say." And it's very awkward and uncomfortable. And then he proposes. And I kind of love his proposal because he starts it by saying, "I'm not used to these genuine feelings."
That's what I mean when I'm kind of like, it's kind of charming that the two of them are sort of ironic together. It's not great. It's not Persuasion, but I root for Henry Golding more than I do Cosmo Jarvis.
Yeah. And Anne kind of considers his proposal too that night. She's like, he is kind of unique. While she's lying in bed with her
Right.
bunny. Have we talked about the bunny? We've talked
We've
about
not
Oh
said
my God.
one thing about the bunny.
Bunny erasure. I love this bunny.
The
bunny
bunny
is
is really-
the best part.
Yeah, he's doing the most.
We love the bunny.
The cinematographer and the bunny are really putting the
Holding
movie
down
on
the
their back.
fort.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's lying in bed with her bunny, considering the proposal, and then blows out her candle dramatically. The next morning, she's pouring herself a glass of wine. reading her book.
And then she leaves the glass,
Takes the
takes the
bottle
bottle.
when she hears Mary's voice, which kind of, agree. She sees Mary. Mary is here to fetch Anne so that Anne can come listen to her talk. My queen. Mary says that ever since the accident, life seems so fragile and fleeting, and she's realized how important it is to spend time away from one's children.
Ah,
And then Charles enters, and Mary mentions that Louise is going to marry a sailor, again, not naming him, and Henrietta will marry that soiled napkin of a curate, Henry Hayter, again, naming him Henry. And Charles reminds her that she has to consider her list. And she says, "Oh, right, my therapist says that I need to embody gratitude." I love that Mary's in therapy.
This is another bit that I hate. I'm like, why is this here? This like weird, like modern bit.
we love therapy. Therapy doesn't work for Mary because the whole point of Mary's character is sort of a lack of self-awareness, which they play
except
with in
for
a fun
this
way.
character, which she kind of is pretty
She's pretty self-aware. I understand why you hate it. I think that everything having to do with Mary in this adaptation works for me.
Okay.
Even the parts that are just bits like this.
I think the actress playing Mary is giving a lot here. And
Yes.
it's not exactly how I picture Mary, nor how Mary is totally drawn in the book, which she's way more vicious than Mary in the book.
Yeah.
But I don't mind it because she is wildly entertaining every time she's on the screen, and she does
She's-
bring something fresh to the character. So mostly I agree with you, but there's a couple. She also has some of the worst lines in this movie, which she delivers with aplomb, like the line about the therapist, and like the thing about me is I'm an empath. Like
Iconic. For me.
Ugh.
Well, here's the thing about the therapist. She doesn't actually say that it's a therapist. That's like us drawing conclusions. She says, "My doctor says that I need to embody gratitude." So
right.
one could assume that she's seeing a doctor who says that her blood pressure is way too high and she needs to try taking some breaths when she's getting stressed or angry about things, and maybe think of something she's grateful for instead. That could help lower.
I love that you're like drawing it into the time period.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love it.
Yeah, I don't know. It works for me. She's perfect. Charles Musgrove is so nice to look at. So I'm into it. And Anne says, "Okay, well, I'm going to visit later because I have plans." And then she hides her wine behind her back. And Charles says, "Oh, come on. It's going to be a Lyme reunion." And Anne's like, "Oh, okay. Like, fine." They go. And she's talking with Captain Harville. And she says the line about being no card player. And Wentworth is writing a letter. And he looks up and he says, "The worst I've ever seen." But again, with the look on his face. And
I
like,
know.
he's supposed to be writing a letter, and so when she's still standing there, he's like, "Are we finished?" Like, you're trying to be mean, but you have the look on your face like you're in love with her.
Yeah.
Pick a lane. Anne goes to talk to Harville at this point, and they have the talk about how Fanny wouldn't have forgotten Benwick so fast. And she says, "Well, women love longest when all hope is gone." And she looks back at Wentworth, and they make eye contact. And immediately after she says that, he comes over and says he's finished with his letter and leaves.
When is he writing this other letter?
That's what I'm asking, because he's gone at this point.
Well,
he needs to be prompted by her saying.
Well, you're presuming we're watching Persuasion.
Right. Sorry. I'm so sorry. I totally forgot.
Well, here's the thing. You're presuming we're watching a film. Because where is the time? This is very reminiscent of him in the 2007 leaving and then her leaving and him being gone when he just left. Like, she says the line, he hands in the letter and leaves, and then they continue their conversation for a little bit, but he's no longer in the background, so we can assume he's gone and the letter is written. When did he write the letter?
It also doesn't work at all because this Wentworth has not had a difficult time expressing his feelings to her.
Right.
Right. Like, it has to be done in a letter in Persuasion because he literally can't do it any other way.
Yeah.
Right. So at some point during her conversation with Harville, she realizes that he's talking about Louisa because of the line that he says about, "I think that it was Fanny's ghost in the wind that pushed Louisa." And she's like, "What?" And then she looks back to where Wentworth was and sees a letter on the table that says
This is
Anne.
quite small, but the letter is not facing Anne. So how does she know it's for her? Because it has her name on it, but it's not. It's facing away from her, so she just sees paper on the table.
Yeah, it
I
was
think-
a risky move to put it there.
It-
And
yeah.
think she was gonna pick it up.
None of it made sense. I mean, none of it made sense. We can all
I
agree
think we
that.
Again,
can all agree.
We are free. We are free. It is
We are
not
free.
persuasion.
Don't forget we're free. We were freed by the octopus.
The octopus
and don't
freed us.
forget.
Yeah, so she turns around and she sees a piece of paper and she says, "That must be for me." She knows it was where he was sitting, so maybe that's it. She goes to get it. She reads it to us. It's the letter for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit out of order, like, "You pierce my soul, I'm half agony, half hope."
And here's the thing about the letter. Again, we have Dakota Johnson with the tears.
Right.
Mhm.
At least she's like looking like she's crying a little bit.
She's
this time.
crying here.
But it's just like it doesn't hit 'cause it's not earned.
Is there
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to the text for a second. In the book, "You pierce my soul. I am half agony, half hope. Tell me that I'm not too late, that such precious feelings are not gone forever." In this, he says, "You pierce my soul," and then some other line, and then "I am half agony, half hope," which just disrupts the whole flow of it, for starters. And then he talks about how she talks of women's feelings lasting longer than men's, and he says, Don't talk ill of men's feelings because we can really hold on too." This movie adapts that so that he says, "Your love has not lasted as long as mine." Like, shut up, Wentworth.
Also, the way that it's phrased in the book is like so stunning. You should read it. It's like,
"Dare not say that man forgets sooner than woman, that his love has an earlier death. I have loved none but you. Unjust I may have been, weak and resentful I have been, but never inconstant." Like, how does that translate to "because your love has not lasted as long as mine"? And when are you gonna propose to someone and say, "But you don't love me as much as I love you"? Like, that's
Ugh.
not what he's saying there. You're completely missing the mark.
Yeah, but again, it's not persuasion.
No, and we're free.
We're free. We are free.
But I do like that they just give us the letter instead of like adding things to it or like messing. Like, the letter is by itself and she's just reading it and crying. And I liked that. And then she runs out to go find him. And that's when she stumbles upon Mrs. Clay and Mr. Elliot making out. And he tries to explain himself and she's like, "Go at it."
Whatever, dude.
Yeah.
And you know what? Didn't hate it.
No, kind of liked it actually.
Hate the fact, like, if this is persuasion, I hate the fact that we don't get the fact that Elliot's a villain. I hate the like cut of the Mrs. Smith story. It's so important to the journey of like what risky love means in the Austen era, and it's so important to like this interesting character that is searching for meaning but can't find it in his money or his title. But in the context of a rom-com, it is Henry Golding making out with Mrs. Clay, which is fun.
Yeah.
No, it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. She runs. Frederick finds him. And they kiss. And then "Quietly Yours" by Birdie comes on. The first song with lyrics in the whole movie. It doesn't really make sense thematically to have the song here, but the song is, I think, written for the movie and it is beautiful and the lyrics match
Sure.
but like, wait till the credits.
Yep.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, because I was like, okay, the movie's over. Nope, there's more.
Yep.
But it's nice. We cut to Elliot and Mrs. Clay's wedding.
Again, she's not a kept woman. He's
She's
not
not.
that much a villain.
No, it's true.
And he seems like kind of
He
like,
is.
I'm like, he fell in love with Mrs. Clay
Yeah.
in trying to take her away from
Sir Walter.
Sir Walter. It's a happy ending for a character that we don't necessarily hate.
Well, so I agree that is one way to interpret it, but with the narrator, Anne, narrating over it, she says, "For some, love is a lucrative endeavor," as they're getting married. So
Sure.
it's lucrative for Mrs. Clay because she's marrying up, and it's lucrative for Mr. Elliot because he's keeping his estate and his title.
Oh,
Right.
true.
So
True.
But they're kind of into each other.
no, it's great. Like,
Yeah.
also, they're both hot. They deserve to be happy and be hot together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whatever. But I think that, like, it's kind of, and this is another situation where I'm like, they're just taking things from other Jane Austen movies. The end of Emma 2020, when you're like
Mhm.
seeing the different couples. I think
Right.
it's 2020. You're seeing the different
Yep,
couples
yep.
and the narrator like For these people, it was like this. For these people, it was like this. It might have also been Pride and Prejudice. I don't remember.
I think this is specifically like an Emma 2020 scene as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Maybe it
it's
happens in a lot of Jane Austen movies, but
I remember it most vividly in that
yeah.
movie because there's a lot of couples in Emma, and that I think that scene works really well at the end of that movie.
Yes.
Not so much at the end of this movie
No.
because we have not gotten to know any of these couples.
No, we literally it flashes to Henry Hayter, who we've never met.
We have not seen one time.
I
Also, his name's not Henry, but that's fine.
But like he's so cute. Why didn't we get more of him?
Great question. And then we get Louisa and Bennick, who we've not seen interact.
No, just staring at each other lovingly, which is
Cute.
great. Good for them.
And then we get Charles and Mary with the
wondering where their kids are.
No, that's not what they're wondering.
They're wondering where Captain Wentworth and Anne are.
Yeah, like clearly, and I thought
Yeah.
they were gonna do like I'm glad they didn't do this, but I thought they were gonna do like that shitty thing where they come in late and it's like, oh, their messes together now.
No, they just skipped the wedding.
They just skipped that wedding. They
they're-
didn't need to go.
Honestly, I'm fine with that. They're just
That's
sitting,
fair.
they're lying on a cliff and they're looking out at sea, and that's fine.
And
Yeah.
then it's kind of unclear. Like, we were saying, like, oh, is that them from the beginning? Because it's a mirror. Like, it's a bookend. You
Yes, yeah.
bookend the film with a flashback and then them happy at the end in the same field, lying in the grass.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that there's a possibility that it wasn't a flashback in the beginning, but in fact, Anne is looking back on her life and telling us the story of how she learned how to turn a ship around?
I'm not saying you can't read it that way.
I think you're right. I don't think it's a flashback.
Did we just ruin the... Becca's like, I didn't even get my flashback.
Y'all, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I work hard. I just have this podcast where I like consume Jane Austen content.
This is
with
supposed
my
to be your nice
friend.
thing for yourself.
Like, this is supposed to lower my blood pressure. Like, I
I'm
have
sorry,
to.
I shouldn't have said anything.
The one thing in this movie that I was like latched onto. Well, what a place to end our coverage of Persuasion 2022, which brings us to the study questions.
Yeah.
Favorite line delivery?
I have so many that I have highlighted because there's so many good ones specifically from Mary. So someone else go first.
It's almost everything Mary, Elizabeth, and Dad say is perfect. I mean, can I just say the octopus monologue?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Please
it's
do.
gotta be the octopus monologue.
I think that's really fair. For me, it's got to go to our girly Lady Russell.
Mm.
Hang on, where's that quote? You had written
You know
it
whose
down.
company I enjoy my own?
Yes, that's
Ugh.
the one. That's the one. Because honestly, it's just goals. And in my brain, like, Lady Russell is off on her lesbian cruises, having a good time, and not interfering with Anne Elliot's sloppy ass life anymore.
Hell yeah.
Incredible.
Ugh.
Oh, and we forgot that at the end when they're going through all the couples, she's just looking at her little
pamphlet.
And that's why I think she's gay. Gosh, I have so many, and they're pretty much all Mary. I've read most of them out loud by Mary, so I'm going to say instead, you lie. I truth.
I almost said that. I almost said that one.
Yeah, that's a lot. That certainly was a line that was technically delivered.
It was a line that got
Certainly
delivered.
was a line.
Next thing, most notable change from book to movie.
Yeah.
Well, the book is Persuasion.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, but if we're gonna get specific, I think that the main the driving force that is changed. Well, first of all, everything about Anne's personality and who she is, but primarily the fact that she has hope in these 8 years. Like, she's dreaming of him, like maybe they can get together instead of wallowing in the fact that they will never be together.
Mhm.
Right.
So other than, I think you named the two big ones, that this is the novel's
The novel's
Persuasion, and this
Persuasion.
is not, and the change in Anne Elliot's character, I think those are the number 1 and 2 that are like, it's just, this is just different. I'll add on Wentworth having hope and not being mad at her the whole
Mhm.
time. Like
Yeah.
Wentworth's character, we have talked about it a little bit, but not nearly as much as we've crapped on Anne in this film. Like this Wentworth has no sort of like driving force or character development. He really just doesn't have anything. He's just kind of there. Like, and that is a shame because Wentworth is such a brilliant character.
Yeah.
Man, I really just can't get over, well, the book is Persuasion. I really it's really, um the bunny?
The bunny is a great change.
Listen, there are some positive additions.
And that's yeah,
That's a good addition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we're gonna do good additions, I would say I enjoyed the softening of Bennick's character.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I enjoyed. Obviously, I've said that already. To go back to bad changes really quick though, the fact that they become quote unquote friends.
That's it. That's it. The most egregious change in this entire adaptation is the butchering of that one line.
I think that kind of like encapsulates the issues.
Yeah.
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 It's really a microcosm of the broader issue, which is a simplifying and a flattening of the film and it's trying to make the story something different than it actually is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Favorite part?
The octopus? Yes.
Yeah. My favorite part, well, there's favorite part and who wins, and I'm trying to differentiate them because I know who's gonna win for me. So I'm gonna try to pick a different favorite part. So you go first.
I'm gonna give it to the portrayal of Sir Walter and Elizabeth in this because I genuinely think it's the best one. Like earnestly, like to the book portrayal of Elizabeth and Sir Walter. And I actually think the heightened weird style works for specifically these two characters. And if the
Yes.
rest of the film were like Persuasion, this would be on point entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to give it to something different than what you've both said, which are both also things that I felt strongly about. I'll say all the scenes with Lady Russell, I feel like she gave like a really tender portrayal of like someone who really loves Anne and who was best friends with her mom and who really cares about her and also like thinks that she's doing right by her.
Yeah, again, like that is a character that's true to form, true to canon.
Yeah.
And a couple of these characters, we've joked a lot about how this isn't Persuasion because, it's not. But some of the supporting cast is out here doing incredible work with
Yeah.
Jane Austen's characters, and I think that it's a shame that those portrayals are in a movie that doesn't really do the book justice.
Mhm.
Least favorite part.
So this isn't a specific part because honestly, all of the individual parts I actually love. Like they are a bunch of parts that are really funny. So my least favorite like thing about it is that none of them fit together cohesively to make a story because like I really loved a lot of the
Mhm.
different things and then I'm like, "Oh wait, they just contradicted this in the last scene, so it doesn't actually work, but it could work so well if you had done it better."
For me, it's gotta be Charles wanted to marry me before Mary.
Mhm.
That for me, like we talked about when the film lost us, and it lost me before this point.
Forgot about
But
that.
like that scene, I think about like as the scene. Like I couldn't forgive Anne after that scene for being who she was, and like I couldn't understand the whole story like from that perspective because it's just so it like that was the bit where I was like nobody here's relatable. No one
Mhm.
here's authentic. And
Mhm.
this is just not something anyone would say. Like, much less Anne Elliot, if we're doing Persuasion. Like,
Mhm.
she would just, like, this is just rude and weird and, like, hurtful to everyone. It's like the Miss Bates moment in Emma. But if there were no consequences for it, which just, like, pulls me out entirely.
That's a really good point, and I
Yeah.
wanna
It's a
change my
great
answer, but you
answer.
go first.
My answer is Frederick!
When she
And then
leans out
she
the
leans
window?
out the window, yeah, and then
Yeah.
she falls off, and then she jumps the gravy boat on her head. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna change my answer to, so I'm glad you said it.
Yeah.
Because, like, that actually, like yeah, I didn't like that all the scenes didn't flow together, but that one I just couldn't even enjoy watching
Yep.
because, like, it was so stupid and so uncalled for, and he didn't comment on the fact that she did it. Nobody commented on the fact that she did it. So it was just there to make us mad.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And I feel bad because I've been like doing like kind of like a reaming of Dakota Johnson's performance in this. And it's not mostly not her fault. Like this is just really
Yeah, it's not
poorly
her
Yeah.
fault.
written.
She's
And she
yeah.
is beautiful and she has her moments of vulnerability that work. I just like this Anne is so unlikable and
Yeah.
so crazily written and like it's not even like we've talked about the Fleabagification of Anne. Fleabag is a character that works because the complexity and the vulnerability is there and it's just like a flattened version of that on one of the more complex and nuanced characters Jane Austen wrote. So it's like,
Yeah. And I do like Dakota Johnson as an actor sometimes. Like, I sometimes I don't, and sometimes I do. And in this case, like, she has some moments where she's really funny too.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and makes me laugh. And it's just that some of the lines that she's given are fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Who wins the movie?
Mary.
Mary freaking Musgrove.
Literally everything out of her mouth is gold. She was like, aside like also Sir Walter and Elizabeth, they were phenomenal
Mhm.
as well. But she was like, she and Charles, but particularly she was just a shining light in this film where every time she was on screen, I knew I was gonna have a good time.
And I'm gonna give it to the cinematographer because
Oh
this
yeah.
movie is
Oh, the
beautifully shot.
cinematographer.
We
God
love
bless the
him. We
cinematographer.
literally clapped when his name popped up on the screen. I don't remember it now,
Yeah,
but we
I
were
don't
like, "Oh,
remember
God
either.
bless that man," because
Yeah.
there are some stunning shots that are caught beautifully in this movie, and it is a shame that there was not a lot of substance to back it up.
So that we can give this person his flowers, Joe Anderson.
Thank you so much, Joe. You did
Joe.
great.
Yeah, phenomenal.
All right, listeners, that concludes our coverage of the 2022 adaptation of Persuasion, adaptation in heavy quotes. I want to thank you all for bearing with us here. The three of us have had a blast talking about this and a blast watching it. We have been pretty harsh on this movie, and I know a lot of you agree with us and maybe feel even worse about it than we do. I do want to say it's all in good fun, and if you did enjoy this movie, that is completely okay. Molly, in fact, really enjoyed this movie, even despite its flaws.
Yeah, I can
Um,
recognize the flaws in something and also think that was so much fun and I'm gonna watch it again.
yeah, and I do want to like flag that at some point we are not done with our 2022 Persuasion coverage. We will be covering this with like a defensive edge as well. But for our more honest and eviscerating takes, Sequoia, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for letting me do this even though I implanted it in your brains, incepted this for myself months and months ago.
Genuinely our pleasure. Do you want to tell the people where they can find you?
Absolutely. The people, you can find me on Instagram at Sequoia Simone, and that is where you can find out about all my new projects that are coming out this summer. I'm very excited about them, and I hope to see you there.
Listeners, that concludes this episode of Pod and Prejudice. Just to give you a heads up, we will be going on a mini break, but for good reasons. It's because I am getting married and I need to get married instead of record a podcast just for a little bit. But we'll be right back at you with more Persuasion content soon.
Becca, what do you mean you don't want to bring your microphone to your wedding?
I'm going to be recording down
Do
the
your
aisle.
honeymoon.
Until that time, though, stay proper.
And dream of an octopus sucking your face.
And then become that octopus.
For
The
next time-
octopus is you.
Be the octopus.
Be the octopus.
Wow. Pod and Prejudice is edited by Molly Burdick and audio produced by Graham Cook. Our show art is designed by Torrance Brown. Our show is transcribed by SpeechDocs Podcast Transcription. For transcripts and to learn more about our team, check out our website at podandprejudice.com. To keep up with the show, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Pod and Prejudice. If you love what you hear, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/podandprejudice to see how you can support us, or just drop us a rating and a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening.